Hey there, everybody. Meteorologist Greg Day at home here on this Wednesday afternoon. Thought we'd do a little update on Fred. Got some early morning model data in. That's in finally this afternoon. So the European and GFS are in, so we'll get a really good comparison with the models are thinking, and then kind of take a look at what the storm is doing now and how it could impact us as we head into the Bay Area. So first, let me show you what the storm is doing right now. And you see here, it is still not the most organized of storms. Let me put this into motion for you. This is the latest satellite picture, the big blue thing in the middle. That's the Dominican Republic and Haiti, Hispaniola. And as you see on the satellite, there's a lot of convection, but it's really not very large in size. It really was torn up earlier this morning as it was coming in towards Hispaniola, maybe starting to pick up a little bit of moisture. I think it had a little last minute push of some energy as it made its way on shore. The problem here is right in the middle of that island is a huge mountain chain. So that's going to start to disrupt the storm and really start to weaken as we head through the next 24 hours. So we actually expect this to become a tropical depression before then again becoming potentially a tropical storm. Now, the latest track from the Hurricane Center, pull that up for you here very easily, shows that this thing is probably going to continue towards the northwest for quite some time before then making its way across Hispaniola and then through Cuba. So the dotted line is the official track from the Hurricane Center. Notice it kind of takes it just north of Cuba, but there are still some things to watch here. If the center tracks a little farther south and goes over Cuba, well, we're going to get some weakening and maybe even no strengthening, maybe just a depression or a very weak tropical storm. If it does manage to go on the northern end of that cone, well, then you're going to start to see maybe a little bit more in the way of strengthening. Though, as I'll show you, none of the models really make this into a big storm. That's Friday morning right there. That's the latest. That's the advisory calling it for 40-mile-an-hour winds as it's north of Cuba. Then by Friday night, it continues north of Cuba and starts approaching the Keys. Now, here's what's important here. The hatched area is where the winds would actually be. This only goes out through about 3 days. So what you're getting here is Saturday morning, 8 a.m., the storm would be located somewhere near the Keys, but the fringe winds, some of the wind gusts and some of the breezy conditions, I won't even say tropical storm force winds, would extend into Florida. So as early as Saturday morning, South Florida will already start to feel some impacts from the storm. And then the cone really widens. The Hurricane Center brings it up to a 60-mile-an-hour tropical storm just offshore from our area as we head into early Saturday morning. From St. Pete, let's say, all the way out towards the center of that line. So about 55 miles offshore, and that's very hard to see, about 55 miles to the west-southwest of St. Pete on Sunday morning. We'll already be feeling the impacts by Sunday morning, 8 a.m., but this is where some of the heaviest rain will be across the region. All right, so what about arrival times? What's the most reasonable time to expect some impacts from the storm? Tropical storm force winds. If this thing were to maintain tropical storm force intensity, which is actually not guaranteed, South Florida, Saturday at 8 a.m., that black line. Then by Saturday, 8 o'clock, you're talking about just starting to move into our area. So Port Charlotte, Saturday at 8 a.m. So you got to figure, or 8 p.m. Venice, Northport, Saturday evening, Saturday night, those stronger wind gusts try to spread north. And then by Sunday morning, most of our area is potentially seeing some sort of tropical storm force winds. Now, remember with Elsa, this was really just along the coast. We really didn't see a lot of strong wind away from the water. And with a 60-mile-an-hour tropical storm, you're just not likely to get widespread 60-mile-an-hour winds. Those 60-mile-an-hour winds are likely right near the center of the storm, right near the center of the track. That's where you're most likely to see some of those stronger winds. We can actually take a look at it in terms of the probabilistic forecast. So what is the chance of seeing tropical storm force or even stronger winds across Florida? And right now, unfortunately, that forecast doesn't even extend into Florida yet. It's the lowest chances yet. Into the Keys, there's a low chance of seeing tropical storm force winds, but you're just not going to see a very strong chance yet. The storm is still too far away. We'll continue to track it, but again, arrival times would be Saturday night into Sunday morning. That is looking like the most likely arrival time for some kind of tropical storm wind gusts if we were to get it. Intensity here, however, is all over the place and there's a lot of uncertainty. So these are all the model plots. These are the spaghetti plots for the intensity. So basically, I'm going to add some color codes here so it's a little bit easier to see. Everything that's in the yellow is tropical storm strength. Once you get into the red, that is now, I can actually make this larger for you, hurricane strength. So what you're seeing here is that all of the models keep a low-end tropical storm for a good portion of its life. And then maybe by day 4, the right side of this graph, you start to see some models try to increase it in intensity. Most peak between 50 and 60 knots. So 55, 54 to 65 miles an hour. Many of them keep it below 60 miles an hour, and one model tries to bring it to a Category 1 hurricane. That did happen with Elsa, so it's a possibility, but it's the lowest possibility right now. It's most likely, the most reasonable expectation is that this storm will remain a tropical storm. Speaking of which, here's the track. You know this one, the spaghetti plots. You've probably seen this many, many times. You know how this works. Every one of these lines here is a model guess. And notice, earlier this morning, they were all clustered just offshore. A couple of these are now starting to go across the Florida Peninsula, which is interesting because if the storm were to actually come into South Florida and track across land, well, then you would not get any intensification. You would get a weak tropical storm moving through here. And what we would basically get is rain with some gusty winds. And when I'm talking about gusty winds, it would be breezy. It would be breezy with just intense heavy rain and maybe some localized flooding. The dark red line, I know it's hard to tell, is the official hurricane center track, and it's kind of towards the general area of where most of these models are, though maybe a little farther west. So be interesting to see at 5 o'clock if they nudge that red line a little closer to the coast. That's certainly possible. Here's what the actual models are talking about. The GFS and the Euro are in. So let's look at the morning GFS. So I'm going to fast forward this through Friday. Friday, no impacts from the storm, okay? Thursday, Friday, we're looking great. No actual impacts for us from Fred. But as we get into Saturday, there's Saturday morning, dark green blob over South Florida. That's the beginning of some of this rain. And then you see the rain continues across South Florida. If you've got plans to travel to Miami, Fort Lauderdale, West Palm this weekend, based on the current track, don't. If you're trying to go to the beach, okay? If you're visiting friends and family, it's going to be fine. It's going to be windy, breezy. It's going to be wet. If you're staying at home, you're going to be okay. But if you're planning on heading down there for the beach, please don't do it. It's going to be an awful beach day Saturday. Rain picking up, wind picking up. It's just not going to be nice. Sunday is not going to be much better. Now, by Sunday, this is the GFS. You start to see this black circle out in the Gulf of Mexico. That's the center of the low, and there's only one circle, meaning this is not a very strong low pressure, folks. This is not going to be a very intense low pressure, at least according to the GFS. And the yellows and the oranges, the dark greens, the heavy rain, just kind of hug the coast. There's the low. It finally puts a low in. The low pressure tracks well offshore. So this is the GFS. And then up towards the panhandle, and we get periods of rain through Saturday or Sunday, maybe into Monday as well. So the rainfall, where's the heaviest rainfall with the GFS? You kind of see it build, the purples and the blues, all offshore. So this is mainly going to be just along the coast. Here's a better look at it. Most of the heavy rainfall with the GFS is going to be offshore if it were to track the way the GFS is thinking, which is a little bit offshore. Now, let's take a look at the Euro. So the Euro just came in. This is the overnight run or the morning run. The information is just coming in. Thursday, Friday, no problems, right? We're going to take it through Friday afternoon. Now, the Euro is bringing in a lot more moisture. So Friday, it's really bullish on bringing some storms in. Maybe some of these outer rain bands of this thing swinging across the state. That's where you see the darker greens. Saturday morning, we're quiet. Here's Saturday, 8 a.m. Now the rain starts to move along the Florida East Coast. Again, even though these tracks, as you'll see, are different, the forecast for South Florida this weekend is the same rain. Not a good weekend to be out there to go to the beach. Now the Euro, there you see the red L, brings a storm basically into or very close to South Florida, Everglades City, Naples, kind of takes it right along the coast. That circle, the L, actually takes it into the interior of the peninsula. So the Euro, very different than what the GFS is saying. The GFS is keeping the storm offshore. The Euro runs it along our coast. And with tropical systems, what you get is the strongest rain, the heaviest winds, they're all on the east side of the low. They're not where the center tracks. The worst weather is actually 50, 60, 70 miles east of the center. So if the center of this, like the Euro is saying, tracks over Naples, Fort Myers, Sarasota, Bradenton, Tampa, St. Pete, the coast will get some gusty winds, but the flooding rain, maybe some tornadoes, they're all going to be in central and eastern Florida. It's going to be east of I-75. And then that low pressure, the storm continues to track up the coast. The pressure is not very low in this because it's going to spend most of its time over Florida. It'll likely maintain intensity, 40, 50 miles an hour, or maybe even weaken. It certainly is not going to strengthen into a hurricane. And that's the last I've got for the Euro data this morning. But you see it shows everything that we need in terms of the track. So rainfall, how much rainfall? Well, on this track, instead of the heaviest rainfall staying offshore, like the GFS is showing with the storm tracking farther out into the Gulf of Mexico, because the Euro tracks along the coast, what you're seeing here, and this is really interesting, the coast doesn't actually get as much rain. The coast gets an inch or two, maybe less in some places. The beaches may get less than an inch of rain. And it's the interior. That's where you see the darker reds, the purples. That's where you start to see a lot of heavy rain. So it's Gainesville, Ocala, Lakeland, Avon Park, Sebring. The purples there, about 4 inches of rain. The blues, you're talking about 6 inches or more. So 4 to 6 inches of rain in the interior. That's still quite a difference between the models. There is still a difference here where this thing is going to track. So it's very interesting to see how this is going to evolve as the storm continues to move towards the north and northwest. Either way, as we get back to the models, both models are showing a period of heavy rain, and this is going to be the heaviest of the rain for us. Now, the Euro, for us, the heaviest of the rain would be beginning south of I-4 in our southern counties, so Highlands, Hardy, DeSoto, if the Euro track works out, Saturday night, spreading through the area overnight Saturday. By Sunday morning, the heaviest of the rain is north of I-4. And then by Sunday night or Sunday afternoon, the biggest batch of heavy rain is up towards North Florida, and we're just getting scattered rain, some feeder bands. The GFS brings the heaviest rain into our area. Let's see, this would be very similar. Saturday night, except remember, this is now along the coast, Saturday night, Sunday morning into Sunday afternoon. So the timing is very similar. Late Saturday into the day on Sunday. The exact timing still to be determined by the exact track, but Saturday is going to start dry. We'll probably start with sunshine, and then the rain starts to increase, and then we start looking at probably some gusty winds with some of the rain. I'm going to see if I can pull up one more little piece of model data here. This is going to be based on some of the models. So it's going to be a general view of what to expect here. There's going to be a lot of information on the screen, so just kind of watch out here. But what you're seeing here is this is in the gray is what I'm really looking at. You guys see that gray graph? It's showing the cloud cover Saturday. So it's actually, the gray is very low early on Saturday. So I think Saturday starts sunny, and then we quickly increase clouds through the day on Saturday and be completely cloudy by the evening. So we're going to start with a little bit of sunshine on Saturday, and then as Fred starts to move in, or whatever's left of it, according to the current information, clouds increase, and then by Saturday night we have rain moving in. A lot can still change with this system. Okay, this thing is still down in the Dominican. You see it right there. It is still far away from us. And there are still going to be some intensity adjustments that need to be made and some track adjustments too, as its interaction here with Cuba and Hispaniola will really determine a lot in terms of what the storm does. I'll continue to look at the data. Another update tomorrow morning on Good Morning Tampa Bay. And now do more of these videos during the afternoons to kind of help you plan your weekend and kind of adjust to plans. Right now, it does not look like a huge storm surge threat, a wind threat. It is mainly a rain threat, and that's what makes these weaker systems kind of dangerous, because Some of you may still want to sandbag around garages or doorways because you often flood during heavy rain, and this may be one of those deals. It's not going to be a surge of, type of a flood threat. It's probably going to be a rain surge flood threat if it tracks uh, along the coast, especially. I think that's a worse track for us. If it stays offshore and the rain, heaviest of the rain, hugs the beaches, I think we're better than having the center track right along our coast and spread some of the heavy rain inland. That's where you could really get some serious flooding. Anyway, hope you guys have a great afternoon. I'll be back on tomorrow morning starting at 5 to 10 a.m. on Good Morning Tampa Bay. And of course, as new information comes in, I'll be posting updates on my social media right here. You can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and my Facebook page, facebook.com/Greg D. Weather or at Greg D. Weather on Twitter and Instagram. Have a great day, everybody.